That's your point of view. You can have it,
It's my
but
point
I
of
don't
view,
know
and it's the
anything
point of view
about
of
this
most people in
enforcement
my
act.
district who farm and are subject to EPA regulation. I yield back.
Chairman yields back. Mr. Scott, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Ms. McCarthy, I think that you and the EPA have drastically manhandled and violated the rights of our farmers, especially dealing with this water issue. You did break the law. You did break the law. Now let me tell you, Ms. McCarthy, in Section 15 of the Financial Services and General Government Appropriations Act, it expressly prohibits you from lobbying in support or in opposition to pending legislation or rule. Further, not only there did you break the law, but in Section 401 of the Department of the Interior's Environment and Related Agencies Appropriations Act, that's applicable right now, prohibited the use of the EPA's appropriations for lobbying. You broke the law. It needs to be admitted. It needs to be recognized. And furthermore, you spent taxpayers' money in the lobbying. And the GAO reports is $64,610 that you spent in lobbying from February 2014 to 2015. Now, let's come clean with this so we can correct this. There's no way you're going to correct this if you don't realize that you've drastically overstepped here. And let's get that cleaned up. Now, why, the other part that really gets in my craw is this. I was born on a farm, grew up on a farm. And there is a reason why farmers go and develop ditches and ponds and wells, and they're man-made, because that's an insurance policy for the drought. Our animals still have to be fed, they have to drink. There are many times when it won't rain for 4, 5, 6 weeks. And that's why we have that. The other point is, this is the farmer's private property. And it's not navigable waters. It's there for the purpose of being able to give us protection when that rain won't come. My little farm was a tobacco farm. And when you put the tobacco, you go to the tobacco bed, you've got to put the plant in, and you've got to have the water right there to go in with the plant. Suppose it doesn't rain. Now that's on that farmer's property. He shouldn't be permitted for his own property. And then he shouldn't be fined, so you got to pay, the farmer got to pay for a permit on his own property for a puddle of water, or a ditch, or a pond, or a well that they made themselves so that they could be able to have that insurance in a rainy day. And then to violate all of that, the law itself, to go and lobby and spend taxpayers' money on it, that is a damnable thing to do to our farmers who are faced with so many other challenges. The EPA needs to reject this rule, recognize and admit that it broke the law, and then move to correct and say this will never happen again. Now, finally, in my last second, I don't want to go over time, but I want to raise this issue for our cotton folks. On this, the chlorpyrifos, I guess a better way of saying that is Lore's ban. Anyway, we need this for our cotton producers and for our pecan producers. As been said before with the chairman and others, our cotton people are going through a very serious time economically, and they don't need a doubt of whether or not they can use this pesticide. So will you please make sure we use that and hopefully put this business aside for the water rule, and let's move forward and let these farmers have some peace of mind.
Thank you for your passion, sir.
Jimmy yields back. Mr. Desjardins, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Miss McCarthy, thank you for being here today. Just one follow-up on Mr. Scott's question. He pointed out that GAO determined that you violated federal law. Who was in charge of the covert propaganda and the grassroots lobbying? Who was the person in charge of that?
It is actually just part of our outreach and education, sir. There was no covert propaganda and there was no lobbying.
So there was nobody over that particular outreach. There was nobody in charge of that you're
Sure,
aware of?
we have communications folks that
Okay,
are doing it.
who was the head of that? Who was responsible for that?
I'd have to go back and look at the exact time, but we have actually a large education and outreach group, but none of that.
Nobody was punished for it, though, right?
Of course, we don't believe
I
that we
understand
did
the person
anything
that's
wrong.
over it is now promoted and working for the White House, but that's beside the point. In your opening statement, in response to the chairman, you made it sound like Congress is imploring you to move forward with this WOTUS. Where did the idea for WOTUS come from, and basically who was in charge of drafting this package?
Actually, the WOTUS, or the Clean Water Rule, came because the Supreme Court told us that we needed to make improvements to the law based on science. We needed to prove a connection. We needed to do a better job.
So it wasn't Congress, like you said in your opening statement. It wasn't us.
It actually was followed up by Congress asked us to take action to address concerns, individual stakeholders, members of the ag community. Absolutely, people were looking for us to do a better job than the 2008 guidance and to respond to the concerns and criticisms that the Supreme
But you went around Congress and you used a rulemaking process, correct?
No, sir. We were actually asked to do a rulemaking for clarification. Whether you disagree with that rule or not is fine.
What's the
but
cost of
EPA
this?
didn't generate this on its own.
What is the cost going to be to implement this rule?
It's actually a net benefit of something in the order of $184 million.
A benefit, not a cost. Because I've heard that cost anywhere from 180 million up to 500 million, which that would change the way the rulemaking process works, correct? If the cost is over 100 million, you can't go around Congress the way you did.
No, actually, the 100 million threshold means we go through the interagency process, which we did.
Mm-hmm. Do you know Howard Shalansky?
Yes, I do.
Okay, have you worked with him on this?
Yes, I did.
Do you know why he won't give the required documents to the OGR committee that we've been asking for since March 3rd of 2015?
I'm not aware of what you're referring to, sir. But
Okay, we had a hearing about the rulemaking process and the fact that this was a major rule. And we've been asking, and actually have had to now subpoena these documents for over a year. You don't have any idea of why they're ignoring our request?
I don't know what
You've not
the
had any
situation
conversations with him?
is. No, sir.
Okay, is this directive more from the White House?
What directive are you referring to?
The WOTUS ruling itself?
No, sir.
Waters of the U.S., because it's certainly not from Congress. We voted both in the Senate and
No,
the
sir.
House to
I
stop it.
just explained to you where the impetus came from.
And the courts have blocked this, correct? The implementation.
It is being litigated in one district court, and it's now with the Sixth Circuit, where they're looking at whether or not the district court has jurisdiction, or they do. But you're absolutely right. We are now stayed in terms of its implementation until those court issues are resolved.
Okay, well, you act like you're doing us a favor, but yet we have 31 states and many agriculture organizations filing lawsuits against you. So you don't think that maybe there ought to be a reason for pause? Maybe we ought to scrap this thing, go back to the drawing board and do it right?
We'll certainly hear from the courts as to whether we met the legal test in terms of its merits.
So why did the EPA decide that it was necessary to do this?
Because of the lack of clarity and the inconsistency in the unfairness of the current process.
Okay, but under the Clean Water Act, you were restricted to navigable waters. Mr. Scott talked about farm ponds, stock ponds where cattle drink out of. Is that a navigable water?
The actual navigable water, the Supreme Court has told us that goes well beyond what we would traditionally think of as navigable, and we have to then protect waters that have the ability to significantly impact the biological, physical, and chemical integrity of navigable waters.
You understand-
Doesn't respond to ditches on farmlands. We've done a really, I think, good job, if you look at the clean water rule, to make sure that we're clarifying the word ditch that's in the clean water rule, not in
It would take another 10 minutes for you to describe what's a ditch and what's not a ditch, but I'll just end with the fact that, you know, America's frustrated right now with big government. That's the number one issue with Americans,
Okay,
is the overreach of federal agencies. So I would hope that you would withdraw a little bit, take your time and get this right. Thanks
you,
for
sir.
being here.
Gentleman's time has expired. Ms. Lujan Grisham.